Welcome to section 8.4, weighted voting. Weighted voting. Okay, so let's consider. A company with shareholders and corresponding percentage control. So a company with the following shareholders. Shareholders. And their respective control. Can I fit control there? Yes, I can. Okay. So let's say person 1 has, let's say, 20%, which is 20 out of 100 votes. And I'll call that weight 1. Okay, then let's say person 2 has 15%, or 15 out of 100 votes. And that's weight 2. Then person 3, let's say they have 35% of 35% share. That means they have effectively 35 out of 100 votes. And that's weight 3. And say person 4 has, why did I put have up here? Okay, has. So person 4 has 30%, or 30 out of 100 votes. And that's weight 4. So if in order for a policy to pass or to be enacted, so if in order for a company policy to be enacted, there needs to be at least 70%. So there needs to be at least 70% of the votes in favor. Then this value that 70% that is called the quota. So what's the quota that needs to be met? 70%. So the quota. Clearly having issues. Quota. Okay, so this is a quota. So the notation for this is going to be as follows. So notation. You're going to have curly brackets and you're going to have the Q. The quota will be there. And then you're going to have each weight separated by commas. So weight 1, weight 2, weight 3, and weight 4. So, i.e. for us, that is what? The quota is 70%, right? And the first weight, the first person had 20%, so 20 votes, so 20. The next person, person number 2, had 15. Person number 3 had 35. And person number 4 had 30. So now we have limits on a quota. So limits on a quota. So number 1. The quota. Quota. Why do I keep on doing that? Quota. Quota. Must be a majority. That is greater than 50%, right? Okay. So number 2. So the quota must be less than or equal to the number of votes. So if your quota is more than the number of votes, there's a problem. So i.e. less than or equal to 100%. You can't have anything greater than 100%. Okay, so definition. Definition. So number 1, if one voter's weight is larger than the quota, and remember the quota has to be a majority. So if one voter's weight is larger than the quota, then this voter is termed a dictator because he can dictate anything. Then this voter is termed a dictator. Because no matter what, he decides. So number 2. So if one voter is needed for the quota to be reached, so if one voter is needed for the quota to be attained or reached for the quota, to be reached, then this voter has veto power. So then this voter has veto power. Veto power, right? Because he can say, no, I don't want to vote for it, meaning it won't pass. Number 3. So if one voter has no impact on the quota, so if a voter has no impact on the quota or on the vote, has no impact on whether the quota will pass, the quota will or won't pass. No, will or won't be attained, be reached. How do you spell reached? Reached. So then this voter is termed a dummy. So then this voter is termed a dummy. And I did not make that up. That's true. Okay, so for example, so let's find the dictators, dummies, and those with veto power. So find the dictators, dummies, and those with veto power. Those with veto power. In the following. Okay, so number 1, let's say we're given a quota of 70, and we're given weights of 20, 15, 35, and 30, respectively, like we had above. Okay, so are there any dictators? Meaning, is there anybody who is greater than or equal to the quota? And there's nobody who has 70. So none, and this is because none greater than or equals to 70. Okay, now let's see about dummies. Are there any voters that aren't necessary? So the way I do this is I can just subtract from 100. So to get to 70, from 70 to 100, I need 30. So actually, let's call this weight 1, weight 2, weight 3, and weight 4. So the only ones that are less than or equal to 30, weight 1 is a dummy because we don't need him to get to 70. Weight 2 is also a dummy because he's only 15. Don't need him. Weight 3 we do need. So weight 4 is the other dummy. So if I go 35 from 100, I get to 65. So weight 3 is an issue. What is weight 3 called? He's the one with veto power, right? Because without weight 3, we cannot get to 70. So the veto power guy is weight 3. Okay. Let's see, let's do another one of these guys. So subscript number 2. So actually maybe I should have put because 100 minus 35 is 65, which is less than 70. So this guy has veto power. Okay. So number 2, let's say we have a quota of 52 and weights of 10, 5, 55, and 30 respectively. And hopefully those add to 100. Let's see, 60, 70. Yeah, they do add to 100. Okay, so once again, I'll color code them. Weights 1, weights 2, weights 3, and weights 4. Okay, so let's see if anybody is a dictator. Dictator. Does anybody have a value that is greater than 52? Yes, that is weight 3, right? Weight 3 is 55. So that's because 55 is greater than 52. Okay, do I have any dummies? So from 52 to 100 is 48. So anything that's less than 48 is a dummy. In fact, everybody here is a dummy. So weight 1 is less than 48, so he's a dummy. Weight 2 is less than 48. He's a dummy. Weight 3 is not a dummy because he's more than 48. Okay, so, and weight 4 is 30. These are each less than 48. Okay, and now those with veto power, meaning without them, can't have a vote. Well, the only guy that has veto power is the dictator. Weight 3. Okay. So let's note something. Note. So a coalition of voters can. So a coalition of voters can, number one, win if their numbers meet the quota. So if they all group together, win if their numbers meet the quota. So they all get together and agree to vote as a coalition. Number two, they can lose if a voter with veto power leaves. They can lose if a voter with veto power leaves. Okay, so for example, so let's find all winning coalitions for the following, and then find their dummies and their veto power votes. So find all winning coalitions, for the following, and determine their dummies and those with veto power. Veto power. Okay, so let's say we've got a quota of 60, weights of 20, 15, 35, and 30, respectively. Let's see, 35, so yeah, that adds to 100. Okay, so coalitions. So this is weight 1, weight 2, weight 3, and weight 4. So let's look at coalitions that are winning. So what are all possible winning coalitions? So I just need to add to 60, right? So 20 plus 15 doesn't work. I would need to have another guy. So let's see, 20, 15, that's 35. So I could either just tack on 35, which gets me a winning coalition, or I could take those same two first guys, 20 and 15, and tack on 30 instead. So I could just do 20, 15, and 30. That's another winning coalition. Now, what happens if we get rid of the 20? Let's say we have 15 and 35, say. Well, 15 and 35, that gets us to what? 50, so we're still not there. So let's add another guy. How about 30? That is a winning coalition. I didn't even need the 15 in that case. Or I could do first 20, then 35, which gets me to 55, so I'm not quite there. So I would need one other guy. Let's say 30. So this is another distinct winning coalition. What's another one? Well, 35 and 30 just by themselves are over 60. So let's do a coalition of 35 and 30. So these are the 1, 2, 3, 4, it looks like 5 winning coalitions. Okay, so let's see. What color did I use for dummies? Dummies was, okay, so dummies, are there any dummies here? No, because if I get rid of any one of these guys in the first coalition, it won't pass. Is there anybody with veto power? Well, if any one of these guys leaves, then we fail. So everybody has veto power. So weight 1 has veto power. Weight 2 has veto power. And weight 3 has veto power in this first coalition. Okay, let's look at the next coalition. Are there any dummies? No, because if any one of these guys leaves, we no longer have a quota. So no dummies here, which means that if anybody leaves, everybody has veto power. So once again, this is weight 1, weight 2, and that's weight 4. So they all have veto power. Now let's look at the third coalition. Yeah, there is a dummy here because without 15, I still have a quota. So the dummies here is weight 2 at 15. And those with veto power, the two big guys, are weight 3 and 4. Weight 3 and weight 4. So these guys definitely have veto power if they leave. Okay, so let's see. Dummies in this next coalition. Yeah, again, 20 is a dummy, right? If he leaves, I still have a quota. So that was weight 1. So the other guys are important. The other guys do have veto power. So that's weight 3 and 4 again. Weight 3 and weight 4. And last but not least, in this last coalition, if either of these guys leaves, we're screwed. So there are no dummies in this guy. Both of them have veto power. I know, kitty. So weight 3 and weight 4 both have veto power. Weight 3 and weight 4. Okay. Okay, so definition. So definition. So the Banzhaf power index, or Banzhaf, the BANZHOF, so the Banzhaf power index. Power index. That's what we're defining. So the Banzhaf power index for weighted voting. Weighted voting. Measures each voter's ability to influence an election. So measures each voter's ability to influence an election. As a percentage. Okay, so how do we do this? How do we calculate? So calculating the Banzhaf power index, or let's just call it the Banzhaf index. Okay, so number 1, we're going to list each winning coalition. So list each winning coalition, like we did above. So winning coalition. Number 2, we're going to note each voter with veto power. So note each voter with veto power. number 3. So determine the number of times each voter has veto power. So determine the number of times each voter has veto power. Number 4. So sum the totals from the step 3. So sum the totals from step 3. And this will make more sense once we actually do it. So, and calculate the ratio of step 3 to step 4. So number 5, calculate the ratio of steps 3 to 4. This is the Banzhaf power index. So this is the Banzhaf power index. Okay, so for example, so find the Banzhaf power index. So find the Banzhaf power index for, let's say we have a quota of 56 and weights of 20, 14, 36, and 30. Okay, so let's do winning coalitions. So winning coalitions. So we want to get to 56. So once again, let me do weight 1 in orange, weight 2, weight 3, and weight 4. Okay, so if I want to get to 56, I can do that by 20, 14, oh shoot, wrong color. Oh no, wrong color. Okay, so that should be this color. 14. That gets me to what, 34. So if I add 36, I should be there. And 36. So this is a winning coalition. Another winning coalition would be 20, 14. And instead of 36, I could just put 30 and that would still win. 30. Okay, another winning coalition would be 20, and let's omit the 14. 20 and 36 is 56, so that's a winning coalition. Oops, wrong color. Why do I keep on doing that? But yeah, what's more, I could let's be obnoxious. Let's add 30 to that, even though we don't need him. It's still a winning coalition regardless. So I'm listing all possible winning coalitions. So now now that I've done 20 with everybody else, let's omit 20 for this guy. Let's do 14. 14 doesn't win. 14 and 36 gets me to what? That gets me to 50. So I'm still not there yet, so I still need someone else. Let's tack on 30. Okay, and yeah, that works. So now let's do the 2 guys. So we said that 20 and 36 got us a winning coalition, so let's do that. 20 and 36 is definitely a winning coalition. It's exactly a winning coalition. Are there any other guys with just 2? Yeah, 36 with 30 is a winning coalition. So I think those are the only guys with 2 in the coalition that win. And of course, if everybody were to join in, we would win. So if I have a coalition of everybody, namely 20, 14, 36, and 30, that also is a winning coalition. So I've listed every single winning coalition that's possible. Okay, so what I want to do now, so list each winning coalition. So now we want to note each voter with veto power. Okay, so let's look at these. Who has veto power? So in this first case, everybody does. Or no, only weight 1 does. 14 doesn't have veto power, so weight 1 and weight 3. Because if I take away 14, I'm still at 56. Okay, so who's the next guy? Let's see, can I take anything away? So 30 and 14, 30 and 20, everybody has veto power in this guy. So this would be weight 1, weight 2, and weight 3. Actually, that's weight 4. He's purple. Okay. So everybody has veto power there. Who has veto power in this next guy? Well, notice 20 and 36 is 56. So 30 actually doesn't have veto power. 20 also doesn't have veto power because 30 plus 36 is 66. So who's the only guy that does have veto power? And that would be 36, right? So that's going to be weight 3. Is the only guy with veto power there. Okay. So who has veto power in this next set? 30 and 36, so 14 certainly doesn't. 30 and 14 is not enough. 36 and 14 is not enough. So the guys with veto power are weight 3 and weight 4. Okay, so who has veto power in this next set? Both of them do, because without them we don't get to 56. So that's weight 1 and weight 3. Similarly, who has veto power in this next set? Both of them do, because without them we don't get anywhere. So that's weight 3 and weight 4. Both have veto power. And if I look at the last set, so who has veto power in the last set? If 20 leaves, I'm okay. If 14 leaves, we're okay. If 36 leaves, let's see, that'd give me, we're still okay because that would be 64. If 30 leaves, we have even more, so there's none. Nobody has veto power in this last set. Okay, so now we want to look at the veto power totals. So veto power totals. Okay, because what's the next step? We want to determine the number of times each voter has veto power. So let's look at weight 1. Weight 1 is equal to, how many times does he have veto power? 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so 3 vetoes. Okay, why can I not draw a V? Okay, so weight 2. How many times does he have veto power? Looks like one time. Is that it? Okay, so 1 veto. Weight 3. Of course, he's only 14. So that makes sense. Weight 3 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So he has 5 vetoes. And then weight 4 has 1, 2, 3 vetoes. Okay, so how many vetoes do we have? We want to sum up the total number of vetoes. So 3 and 1 is 4, and 5 is 9, and 3 is 12, so 12 vetoes. Okay, so we want to determine the number of times each voter has a veto power, and then we sum that total. So now the last step is to calculate the ratio of 3 to 4. Okay, so the Banzhaf power index. Banzhaf power index as a percentage will be as follows. So for weight 1, which is in orange, so weight 1 is going to be 3 out of a total of 12 vetoes. So 3 out of 12 reduces to 1 out of 4, which is 25%. So weight 1 has a 25% Banzhaf power index. So weight 2 has 1 out of 12, which is not very much. So weight 2 ends up with 8.3 % power Banzhaf power index. Weight 3 is 5 out of 12. So I multiply 8.3 bar times 5 and I get 41.6 % Banzhaf power index. So note that this guy has the largest percentage so far. Okay, and last but not least, weight 4 has 3 out of 12, which we know to be 1/4, or so this is going to be 1 in 4, or 25% Banzhaf power index. Okay, so the guy with the highest Banzhaf power index, so weight 3, is an influencer. So is an influencer. That's what we term the guy with the highest Banzhaf power index. Okay, so shall we call this a semester?